Hey everybody, how are you guys doing today? I'm doing pretty good. Here lately I have seen a lot of videos about people going no contact with their parents and stuff like that, and um, it's kind of a hard video for me to make, but I think that I have got kind of a unique spin on it because for a short period of time, I was no contact with my mom, and I'm currently no contact with my daughter. So I kind of have the unique ability to kind of give perspective on both sides. It took me a while to really come to the realization that I wanted to do this video because it's not a fun video, it's a painful video. So um, I finally decided to go ahead and do it and maybe give a little bit of understanding to both sides. So first we'll start with my mom. I've mentioned in other videos that I grew up in kind of a strict household. Hi, Louie. My stepdad was a Marine who had been overseas, and so he was very strict and very much you do what you're told. Very much if I want your opinion, I'll give it to you, kind of thing. He was never like a physically abusive person. I mean, here and there, maybe little things, but not anything egregious or anything like that. He was more verbally abusive. Very, he yelled a lot and he cursed a lot, and he came into my life when I think I was around 2, and then married my mom, and so I really didn't have any contact with my biological dad after the age of 7. So he was really my father figure growing up, and I think that he went through a lot of childhood abuse growing up, and that was very difficult for him and hard on him, and painful for him to have to go through. And I think that even though, I mean, it was like daily, the screaming and the cursing, and it really was more directed towards me than my mom because he held my mom way up on a pedestal. So they didn't actually fight very much. They might bicker here and there, but nothing crazy. There was no violence between the two of them. They didn't hurt each other. They didn't smack or hit or do anything like that. There was none of that in the house. It was just a lot of yelling, screaming, cursing. You know, he could come home from work and I would say, how's work, Daddy? And he would say, effing hot and miserable, you know, and he would yell it. And so, like, to this day, I can't deal with yelling, you know. So that's a big thing in my household is not to yell. It's just really triggering for me. But in fact, later on in my life, after I'd moved out and lived on my own, he called me up and asked me to go to lunch with him. So I did. At that point, he was working for the government center, and so I met him for lunch, and we were just chit-chatting and eating, and he said, I just really want to apologize to you. I know I wasn't the greatest dad to you growing up, and I did things that were wrong, and I just want you to know that I'm very sorry. And, like, I was taken aback, really. I thought I would never, my parents didn't apologize for anything, so for him to apologize to me, it kind of really knocked the wind out of me. And I was just so shocked that all I could say was, "Oh, it's okay. You did the best you could," and we kind of moved on from that. But I don't think that he ever really understood or knew how much that meant to me. It meant a lot. My mom was more. She was never a physically violent person, but she was extremely verbally abusive and manipulative. She was very manipulative. I can remember being 5 years old and doing something to upset her, and she refused to speak to me for days, and until I just was crying and begging her to talk to me. And when she decided that I had begged and cried enough, then she would talk to me again. And I just thought that all of this was normal, that this happened in every house. And in fact, I look back on it now, and she would always say, "Don't bring any crap in my house, and what happens in this house stays in this house." So thinking about it now, she knew that what she was doing was wrong. Her behavior was unacceptable. There was another time that I told her I was going to have a baby. I told her, I said, I had at that time already been working for probably, I'm going to say 8 years or so at my same job. I had moved out. I had an apartment for a long time, and was financially independent. I had he was my boyfriend at the time. He later became my husband. Now he's my ex-husband. But she said, "If you tell me that you're pregnant, I'm going to kill myself." And I just bursted out crying. And she's like, "What are you crying for?" And I'm like, "Well, I am pregnant." And she goes, "Well, the one thing that I will tell you is this: if it is not a girl, don't bring it around." And I just thought, I have no control over that. I don't know what I'm going to have. And she's saying she wants no part of being a grandmother to a boy child. And I could never understand that, really, because later on, way later, I had my son, and he's 5 now, with my husband that I have now. And when she found out that he was going to be a boy, I freaked out because I'm having a boy. And I wanted a boy. I wanted any baby that was going to be healthy, girl or boy. But, I had a girl before, and now I'm going to have a boy, and it's going to be totally different, and kind of exciting to see the differences between the two. But she was happy that I was going to have a boy. And so it was just weird stuff like that. Then it got to the point where she didn't like my kids, either one of them. She didn't like my daughter. She told me so. She said, "I don't like her. She doesn't treat you well," which I'm thinking, my mom's is not treating well either. So I don't really know where you're going with that one, Mom. But, and then when my son got to about the age of 2, and they're kind of, they can have little fits or meltdowns or cry or whatever, and she didn't like that. So at that point in time, she was disabled and living in an apartment that I had moved her into. And she said, I was going over there to take care of her. I also have, my full-time job, but I was still going over there to take care of her. She would say, "Maybe you shouldn't bring him, anymore. I don't think you should bring him because he has fits and stuff." And I said, "He's 2, I mean, don't you remember when I was 2? I'm sure I had a meltdown or 2, it happens with kids." So, and she hated my husband. And so I was constantly having to tell her, "Don't talk about my husband. Don't talk about my kids. Those are sacred. You're not to say anything bad about them." And she would get angry and say, "Oh, all right then," but then she was also the type of person that she just would never say anything really nice. There was always, now she could fool the person that doesn't know her. Like, I was always taking her to get her hair done. And of course she puts on this big show of, being a lovely person. And I remember her hairdresser always saying, "Your mom is so great." Like, I always go, "Yeah, she's great." I'm not going to say anything, but later on down the road, when she had terminal liver cancer, and she had to be in a nursing home 24/7, which my husband paid for her to have a private room, which is extremely expensive, but that she didn't want a roommate, so my husband paid for that out of pocket. She would treat the nurses and the caretakers, because she was there all the time, they got a sense of who she was. And they would just say, "Wow, your mom's really something." And I would say, "Yep, I know." Feel sorry for you. But yeah, I know. There was a point in time when she got really angry with me because she was one of these people that, she was extremely clean when I was growing up. Everything, she cleaned the house all the time. It was spotless. But then as she got older, she would order all this stuff off of QVC and have it sent to her, either her house at the time or her apartment. And she would get things, and then she would say, "Oh, I don't like that. I want you to take it back." So I would have to go back to the post office, resend it back so she could get her money back, and stuff like that. So she had become kind of a hoarder type personality. I wouldn't necessarily say she was dirty. It's just she accumulated a lot of stuff. She would have backup after backup after backup of like toilet paper. When my mom passed, she had like a dozen 6-packs of toilet paper. Like, it's just, I don't know why she got to be that way. I don't know if it was because after my dad passed, she was lonely and she liked to have little things sent to her. They were like little gifts. I didn't begrudge her what she wanted, but at one point in time, she had a refrigerator in the house. She had 2 freezers, huge standalone freezers in the garage, and another refrigerator freezer combo in the garage, and they were all full. Like, you couldn't put anything else in the freezer. The one freezer, I actually had to put heavy stuff on top of the freezer so that it wouldn't crack open. And so I had told her, "Do not order any more food. There's no place to put it. I can't put it anywhere. You're gonna have to stop doing this for a while until you can get some of this food ate and get rid of it, or whatever needs to happen. If it's expired," which she was notorious for keeping expired food too, and I would, get rid of that for her or whatever. We have to wait. You can't order anything else. So there was a morning I had to go pick her up really early in the morning. It was like 6:30 in the morning for her to go have blood work done at the hospital. So the earlier you go, the easier it is to get in because nobody's there and you can get blood work done. So I pulled up, and her neighbor had actually parked in part of her yard. So I told her, just so you know, your neighbor next door is kind of parked in your grass, so you might want to get a hold of the landlord and let them know so they can talk to the person. And she's like, "Just go over there and knock on the door and tell them to move." And I said, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to go over to somebody's house at 6:30 a.m., knock on the door. I don't know this person. I have no idea who they are, if they're a violent type person or whatever. I don't know. I'm not getting into any of this first thing in the morning." I'm not knocking on their door. I'm not waking them up. I'm not going to tell them at 6:30 they need to move their car. This isn't an emergency situation. Get a hold of their landlord. Well, she got so mad. And then she told me she had bought a turkey. And I was supposed to find a place for this turkey. I said, I have no place for the turkey. I told you not to do this. I'm over this. I told you, don't buy anything. It's going to go to waste because there's no room for it anywhere. Oh, then she got really mad. She got really mad. So, anyway, I get her in my truck and we go to the hospital and we have the blood work done. And she's not speaking to me, which is per her norm, okay? This is a normal thing for her to get mad and not speak to me. So, anyway, I took her to go get the blood work done. I'm sitting out there on my phone, just scrolling through my phone, waiting for her to get done. So I'm just like waiting and waiting and waiting. And I finally look up and she's sitting across from me in a different chair with her arms crossed like this, just looking at me. And I'm thinking, how long have you been sitting there? Like, really? You're gonna be that hardcore about it, that you're not gonna come over to me and tell me that you're done and we can leave? Like, this is so childish. I can't stand it. So I told her, I said, you're childish. You're so childish. Get up and, let's go. So I took her home. I didn't feel like sitting and chatting with her. So I left and went home. And so I'm telling my husband about all this, and he's like, I'm so sick and tired of her treating you so bad. Let me take over her care for a little while so you have a break. And at that point in time, I was so ready for a break. I was, because she was the type that she would push you just so far until she knew, I gotta back up. I gotta back away. And then she would be like, oh, I don't know what I would do without you. You take such good care of me. And I had been through that process with her several times in a short span of time. So my husband said, I'll take over for a little bit. I'm like, okay. So even though he was like taking her to the doctors, which she was having some eye problems and having to go to Indianapolis, which was like a 40-minute drive, he was taking her to her doctor's appointments. He was picking up her medication. He was doing her groceries. I was still making like home cooked meals that would last her for like 4 or 5 days. And I was giving them to my husband to give to her. Even though I was beyond upset with her, she was not in good enough shape to cook for herself anymore. So I would make sure that she had enough food for several days, whether that was chili or a soup or hamburgers or, a casserole or whatever it was, that she had something to eat. So it was a few months that went by. It was about 6 months that went by. And my mom was very much so, I'm not going to say she wasn't in pain. She had horrible back pain. And she had horrible back pain for ever since I could remember. She had degenerative disc syndrome, which is extremely painful. And I had went to her to the doctor several times and done the x-rays and was there to hear him say, your back it's not fixable. It had got to the point because she refused to have surgery that he told her finally, this isn't fixable. You're going to end up in a wheelchair and you're going to end up in diapers because you've done nothing about it, because all she really wanted was her pain meds. I can't tell you how many times I had to break into her house and or her apartment. I had to break in because she wasn't answering phone calls to make sure that she hadn't died. That I can't count how many times I had to do that. And I had to call 911 several times to help me with her. I'm not even going to go into all that. That is just a separate issue with healthcare. Anyway, the doctor had told us she hoarded, just like she hoarded other things, she hoarded medication. And I knew this because I had seen medication bottles that were 15 years old. And I would come across them and I would throw them away when she wasn't paying attention. And the doctor warned her and told her, listen, this happens to people all the time, older people. They don't realize that they're going to overdose, but this medication, this stays in their system for so long, and they're just putting more and more and more on top of it, and it causes an accidental overdose. She said, I see this all the time in older folks. They don't mean to do it, but it happens. And so she had told us, go to her pharmacy, get a printout of all of her up-to-date medications that she's supposed to be on, and get rid of everything else that you can find in the house. Well, she's very good at hiding things. We made a couple different sweeps, and I mean like grocery sacks full of medications that I was throwing away. She got in trouble because she had to sign a waiver saying that they could drug test her at any point in time to see if she was taking anything that wasn't on her medication list, which she got caught for. And so then they were refusing to give her pain medication because of that, and she was really upset over that. But my husband was over at her apartment and was going through all of her stuff and gathering up all of the expired meds or medications that were on the list, and she got very upset, and she started smacking him and hitting him. So he came home and he told me about it. He's like, well, it's not like she was hurting me or anything like that. She wasn't. She's an old lady and she's disabled. She wasn't hurting me, but like he was shocked that she did that, and I said, nope. You're done. You're not taking care of her anymore. I'm taking back over. It is what it is. That's totally unacceptable. So that's my kind of story about, it was a short no contact. It was like a 6 or 7 month no contact thing with her. And the only reason I got back involved was because she acted unacceptably when my husband was trying to take care of her. So I then took care of her until I finally had to beg her to go to see a doctor because she was totally disabled. I was going over to her house twice a day to check on her, take care of her, do everything I could for her. And she said that she would go if I paid for her ambulance ride because she couldn't walk. I couldn't get her to my truck. So I said, yes, I will pay for it. And got her there and found out that she had terminal liver cancer. So by then it was already too late. They gave her, I think, 4 months to live. So I had to find her a nursing care. And I did. I found her facility, and she didn't like that place, so then I moved her to a different place. Both places, she had her own private room like she wanted. And they called me one day, and they said that a part of their staff had COVID and didn't know it, and so my mom had been exposed to it, and that they were going to give her a test and get back with me within 3 days. So they did. They got back with me. She had COVID, and then I had COVID. So I couldn't even go and see her at that point because we both had COVID. And she ended up, she was in hospice too. I got her hooked up with hospice, and they were great people. I mean, this hospice place was great. Very caring, very loving staff. Always kept me up to date. She died from COVID. They said it was a COVID death. She was terminal anyways, but she technically died from COVID. And I still felt really, really bad that I was not with her when she died. That even though she had treated me so poorly in my life, I felt that guilt that I wasn't with her. That really made me very sad. But so I kind of had to just wrap my mind around the fact that nothing was ever going to get fixed with my mom. Like, even before her diagnosis, I knew that our relationship was not fixable, as far as her saying, yeah, I recognize I did this, this, and this, because she could say something really, really mean, and 5 minutes later I could tell her, that really hurt my feelings that you said that, and she would say, I never said that. Or she would say, oh, I was just joking with you. Can't you take a joke? You know, it was like the gaslighting thing. Hardcore. So I knew that we were never going to fix it, because she would never acknowledge that she had done these things. So that was hard for me too, because I did want to fix it, but it wasn't going to happen. So then after she died, you know, it's really not going to happen. But then now we'll go to the flip side, the other side of the coin there. Me and my daughter have went no contact twice. And I'm not going to get into the particulars of what it was, because I'm respecting my daughter's privacy, so I'm not going to say her name or what it was that happened in particular. I'll try to roundabout kind of explain it, but the first time that we went no contact, she had done something that was really dangerous and had scared me a lot. And so we had, like I yelled at her, you know, and I yelled at her and said, do you know that this and this and this and this could have happened to you? And, you know, you could have died, and you know, you can't do that. And I was just very upset, and I said, you know the rules around here, you know the rules. If you don't agree with my rules, you could talk to your dad about it and see what he says. Well, it wasn't but the next day that I came home from work, and she had moved. She wrote me a letter saying that she wanted to live with her dad, that she had packed her stuff, and that her dad had come and picked her up. Of course he didn't call me. Of course he didn't text me. Of course he didn't let me know that this happened. I had to call him to make extra sure that she was safe. So I called him and said, did you come and pick her up? And he said, yes, I did. So I was absolutely heartbroken. I cried all the time, and I texted her, if not every day, almost every single day, telling her, I miss you. I know that we don't not in agreement on things right now, but I miss you, and I want you to know that you're always loved. You don't have to respond to this text. I just want you to know I love you. And that went on for several months before she finally contacted me back. And she still lived with her dad, but she would come over and visit and spend the night sometimes, and we would hang out together. We would go to the mall and go shopping and things like that. And everything was okay for a while, and then she came over to my house and stayed the night because my husband's sister was getting married, and she was in the bridesmaids, and I was a bridesmaid too. So she was going to stay at my house, and we were going to get dressed and go to, it was like a luncheon, with everybody before the wedding was going to happen. So I remember she asked me, hey, can I use your shower? Because the shower upstairs doesn't have a shower curtain, which is true. because we never use the shower upstairs. So I said, yeah, you can do that. I don't care. So the way that my bedroom is set up, there's the bedroom, then you walk into the bathroom, and then you walk into the closet. So, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, hover over her or anything like that. I came in the living room, gave her privacy, whatever. And didn't think anything of it. She got out of the shower and went upstairs, and she was gonna go to bed, and that, you know, everything was fine. And next morning, woke up, got ready. We both got ready together. She curled my hair for me. Like, it was a great experience. I loved doing that with her. And we went to the luncheon, and everything was great at the lunch. And then we came home, and there was a little bit of time between the lunch and then the wedding. It was a couple of weeks or something. But I discovered that she had done something while she was in my shower area. I'm not gonna say what it was. It wasn't like drugs or anything like that. I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea about that. It wasn't anything like that. But she had done something, and I noticed that she had done something and chose to keep my mouth shut. I really did. I was like, not gonna say anything, because I knew that if I did, she would drop out of the wedding and cause a problem. So we got ready for the wedding together, and, you know, went to the venue, got our hair and makeup done, went through the whole wedding. And then you do pictures, you know, that's the norm. You do the pictures and everything. So she kept asking me over and over. She's like, when can I leave? I want to go to my boyfriend's graduation. He's graduating today. And I'm like, listen, you can't leave until the pictures are done. And then when they're done, you can ask her if it's okay if you leave. But you can't just leave. And she was getting more and more frustrated about it. I don't know what to tell you, because this is a wedding. This is a very important day in her life, and you can't just, you're a bridesmaid. You know, you have to be in the ceremony, in the pictures. Just, it's not going to take that long. Just wait. So finally got done with the pictures, and she said that she could leave. So she said, will you help unzip me out of this dress? And I said, yeah. And so I helped her unzip out of the dress. She put on regular street clothes, and I said, I'm going to walk you outside. Like I said, I purposely not asked her about this because I didn't want her to drop out of the wedding. So I waited and acted like there was nothing wrong until we got outside. And even then, I was very calm, and I asked her, did you do this? And she said, no. And the way that she said it was very like robotic. You know, I was like, hey, did you do this? And she said, no. And I was like, well, I kind of know that you did, because we don't have people over to the house. We're homebodies. Like, we don't have dinner parties. We don't have like parties at our house. People aren't in and out of my house. So like, I know that she did what she did, you know? So I was like, I know that you did, though. You know, can't just tell me you did it. Just, you know, just be honest with me. And she insisted that she had not done this. So I'm like, you know, and then she said, well, you didn't come to my graduation, which I hadn't gone to her graduation because she hadn't invited me to her graduation. And I told her, you didn't invite me to your graduation. And she said, well, I suppose that you're just going to make this all my fault. And I said, I'm not saying that. I'm not making anything all your fault. I'm saying there's some miscommunication maybe, or something happened, but I'm not blaming it all on you. So she was upset and she said she had to go. So I said, okay. And so she got in her vehicle and she left. And she had her dad and stepmom were throwing her a graduation party, which I was invited to that, but I was invited by her stepmom to go. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with this, but I decided not to go because she didn't invite me to go, and because we kind of had this strain, I decided not to go. My husband's parents said that they got an invite. Did I mind if they go? I said, no, go ahead and go, no problem. And even though I decided not to go, I sent her a large bouquet of flowers, and I also sent her like one of those boxes, you've seen them, you open them up and like butterflies fly out and there's candy and stuff in there. I also sent her that on the day, so I knew that she was going to get it on the day of the party. So I sent her that, and she sent me a text saying that thank you for the gifts. And I said, oh, no problem, and really didn't hear that much back from her. And then her dad called me and said that I owed such and such amount of money for her college that she wanted to go to. And I said, I have no problem helping pay for her college, but I want her to come over here. I want us to have a conversation about what happened. I said, this is not about shaming her. I'm not going to yell at her. I just want to talk to her. And he said, if you do this, you will lose her. I said, if that happens, that's her decision. She is an adult, and she is entitled to her decision, and I will have to live with it. I won't like it. I will hate that decision, but she has to make that decision. So instead, they sued me for the money for her college, which I just thought this whole thing could have been avoided if she just would have came over and talked to me. But like I said, instead they decided to sue me for the money because I made less money than her dad at the time. He had to pay more than half. I had to pay less than half, which my husband, thankfully, he paid it. He paid for it. I didn't pay for it. He paid for it for me. But I just thought, if she would have came over and talked to me, she could have went to the college that she wanted to go to, which she had to switch colleges because she couldn't afford anywhere near to go to the private college that she wanted to go to. But I said, if she had just come to me, she would have been able to go to the college she wanted to go to. I would have paid half, and her dad would have only paid half, and everybody could have got what they wanted. But instead, they decided, well, now she's got to go to a different school, a cheaper school, and get her education in something that she hadn't planned on getting it in. So she had to change what she was going to school for. She could have had everything she wanted if she would have came and talked to me. But since that suit and my, like I said, my husband, we didn't even go to court because my husband just paid what they said that I owed. So we didn't even have to go to court or anything like that. But I haven't heard from her since the day that I sent her the gifts for her graduation party. I haven't heard from her since then. It's been a couple of years. I get really, really sad and upset at certain times of the year I get depressed really easily, and I'll cry a lot. I'm trying not to cry right now because it's just, you know, it's painful. It's a very painful thing. But I have to live with it. I have to respect her and her feelings and her decisions to not want to speak to me at this time. And I have to live with it. And that's all I can do. So that's pretty much where we're at now. My husband has offered to go speak to her on my behalf, and I said I don't want you to do that because I want her to want to talk to me. Don't guilt her. I don't want it that way. I want her to contact me because she misses me, because she wants a relationship. That's how I want it to come. I want it to come naturally. So I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that. I've heard over and over again that I should be the one chasing her, forcing a relationship and stuff like that. But I don't believe in that. I don't believe in forcing somebody to do something that they don't want to do. If ever, and I've told her over the years, you know, I don't care what time it is. I don't care if you come over at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You call me, you need me at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm there. You know, she knows that. So I would love to get a knock at my door. We're going to be moving next year, and that really makes me sad because she's not even going to know where I live. But I would love for a knock at my door today. I would love for a text message or a call from her today. It's something that I hope and pray for every single day, but it's not for me to say. It's not my place. It's hers. And I know that she's got a job. She's held the same job for a long time, and I know that she just got a promotion in her job. I am so proud of her. I am. I saw that, and I'm just so proud of her. I wish I could tell her face to face how proud I am of her, but hopefully that will come one day. I always have hopes for it, and I will always, from now until the day I die, hope for a relationship with her. So that's kind of my take on both sides of the story. I have been so frustrated with my mom that I went no contact with her, but still felt that need to help take care of her. And I've been on the other side of the coin where my daughter doesn't want to speak to me, and how badly that hurts. But I'm respecting her, respecting her and her boundaries. So that's my take on it. Both sides of the coin, my feelings on it. So if any of you guys are going through similar issues, or any of you guys have any thoughts on it, I'd be more than happy to listen and communicate back with you guys. But that's the end of the story time for today. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.